Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Sports Reporters who have indeed reassembled on this fine Saturday morning, a very cold Saturday morning, where I am joined by my favorite fellow sports reporters on the internet and in real life. We've got Andrew Hammond of AL.com here. Andrew, good morning, sir. How are you?
How do you think I'm doing?
Andrew's had a rough time. He was on vacation, and then Nick Saban
I wasn't even on
retired.
vacation.
Oh.
I was never on. Hold on. I was never on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. There was a gateway to a vacation.
Oh.
And then it didn't.
And then he was called to fight in the DeBoer War. So I've been trying to find a place to use that pun all week, and thank you, Andrew.
Attaboy. Bob. I'm proud of you. If nobody else tells you that they're proud of you, just know that I'm proud of you. No, as I was telling you guys before we started, my week has been. It's been 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It's everything that happened before 4 p.m. on January 10th and everything that happened after 4 p.m. on January 10th. You want to know what happened on January 10th? I'll tell you. Nick Saban decided he's going to retire, which, hey, he's 72 years old. I get it. You don't want to do this. To quote Danny Glover, he's too old for this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Although Danny Glover is still acting, right?
He is.
I don't think so.
Did he retire?
I'm pretty sure he is.
I think he kind of
He's
just
sparingly.
stopped.
Okay. He's 77.
It's like sparingly.
Okay.
But yeah.
It's like Dustin Hoffman. Nobody's seen Dustin Hoffman in a movie in a decade. And
Dustin Hoffman.
He got a little canceled. Well, they canceled
him. That was a. Yeah.
Although apparently he's in the new. Francis Ford Coppola movie.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. That voice you hear over there, the DeBoer knower himself of thedailybeast.com, Bobby Silverman. Bobby, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Chase. I'm good.
He's good.
Yeah.
We have to do our CFB minute here to talk about what Alabama has done over the last 24 hours, I guess, with Kalen DeBoer, former Washington.
We'll get into that. I do have some breaking news that I really would like to discuss. And when I say breaking,
oh no,
it's just breaking news. Meaning I looked something up on the internet.
It's Danny Glover's IMDb.
It is Danny Glover's IMDb, and apparently he will be in Lethal Weapon 5, which is in production.
Are you serious?
They're making a Lethal Weapon 5.
Well, they did already on Always Sunny in Philadelphia, so I guess that one doesn't count.
Yes, that doesn't count, though.
Why?
Why?
I'm just answering everything with.
Let me just say, after when was the last Lethal Weapon movie? Was what? Had to be
4.
well over a decade
ago.
No,
it was well past the decade. It's like late 90s. It's like 99, 2000.
I have a very bad joke. Ready? You ready?
Yeah.
Lethal Weapon 5. I did not see that coming. Think about it.
I love you, Bob.
Love you too,
Andrew. Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome.
You know that scene in National Lampoon's Vacation?
Which one?
Chevy Chase. Oh, it's the first one.
No, I know. Yeah. I'm saying which scene. You were like, that scene. I'm like, which scene?
So when Chevy Chase is on, when they're in Arizona and they have to drop off Aunt Edna, who died. By the way, spoiler, Aunt Edna died.
Yeah. Played by the beautiful and talented Imogene Coco. For those of you playing along in our own game.
She's great in that movie.
And yeah, she really is. And Chevy Chase just completely loses it.
That's where you're at? That's the place. That's your emotional state.
I don't know if I'm not going to lose it now, but I feel like either it's bubbling or
would you like to share something with the group? What's been aside from being roped into a very, very pressing Alabama news story? What's
yes, that is it. Yes, that is it. I mean, look, coaching searches, they happen, but when they happen on this scale, and I wouldn't say that I'm like well tuned in to what's going on. Like, I mean, in terms of like, I'm no insider, I'm no Schefter, I'm no Shams, I'm not, but I also know how to I also know how to put pieces together. So when I'm seeing and hearing all this stuff about, who's going to replace Nick Saban? What's going to happen here? What's going to happen here? All these names are being thrown around, and I'm seeing all this stuff being said from message boards, from social media, and I'm just like, guys, I know the truth. Like I know what's going on. Like, no, this coach did not talk to Alabama. He didn't interview well. You want to know why said coach didn't interview well? Because he did not interview.
I mean, we're still tracking planes, and the basics is like Bud Elliott's talked about this, where it's like you do all of them over Zoom. No one's flying in. If they fly in, then you've already accepted the job, and you are going to be the next coach at that place. They're not bringing anybody in on planes. They're doing interviews over the phone.
Like the whole Dan Lanning thing just absolutely pissed me off.
Yeah, what happened? I read on the internet that Dan Lanning was going to be the Ned coach, and
he was apparently in Tuscaloosa that day.
And they hired internet gadfly Freddie DeBoer, which was a real shocker to everybody.
No, he was always their number one target. And like some people are saying, that's not true.
Oh, you think Kalen was their number one target?
I will just say, based on talking to sources, talking to people around these programs, yes, we're going to sources, Bob. We're going sauces. We're talking sauces today. No, but just kind of piecing things together and reading the ESPN story that came out, basically saying, yeah, he was always the number one target. And you're just like, oh, okay, sure.
All right. Well, I mean, that's wrong if that was the case. Greg Byrne did a whoopsie because, look, I think I like Kalen DeBoer a lot. Kalen DeBoer has won a lot of football games. Kalen DeBoer is a very good football coach. He keeps the floor high. Like, I don't see a scenario where Bama falls off a cliff going from Saban to DeBoer. But
it would have to be a massive drop off.
Well, it's already starting where Travaris Robinson is now on his way to be the co-DC with Glenn Schumann at Georgia. He's your best recruiter on staff.
Literally, that one reason why we, a little inside baseball, one reason why we started late, working on that.
Oh, there you go. Because Bob, that's a big one. Georgia getting the Death Star, and it I assume because to make it work, because you're only allowed a certain amount of coaches before they have to turn to analysts. Like, I think Muschamp has to become an analyst now.
He's an analyst. He's moving into the analyst role.
Which is just such a flex from Kirby to be like, yeah, my best friend, you're going to need to go into an analyst. Like, you can still help out and all that, but technically you have to be an analyst while I bring in this other guy who's just going to co-DC with our other elite DC. Like, it's just Georgia's just operating at a different level. And Bama, like, I was wondering with the Kalen DeBoer hire because people are like, oh, well, it worked for Brian Kelly and obviously Saban's like, okay, if I see one more person called Nick Saban a Yankee, I might lose it. It's like the man's from West Virginia. The man is, he won a national title at LSU before he got to Alabama. It's not like he was an unproven coach in this league. Kalen DeBoer is very unproven in this area. He's like, I'm very concerned about how Kalen's going to recruit because Kalen won with a bunch of Jimmy Lake players. He won with a bunch of Chris Peterson players. He hasn't recruited. He doesn't have those relationships down here in the South. It's very different dealing with Alabama boosters versus Washington boosters. I just, as a Tennessee fan, The way I looked at it was like Dan Lanning would keep this thing humming. Dan Lanning was the scariest hire Bama could have made. Dan Lanning would have stocked this room with ace recruiters. He would have had recruiters in the South, would have had recruiters in the West. D'Amico Ryans would have been scary at Alabama. Who's not scary is Kalen DeBoer. Like Kalen DeBoer is the recruiting will fall off. Georgia Andrew's ready. Yeah.
But
I'm not worried about Kalen DeBoer at Bama.
Point of parliamentary procedure. The floor recognizes Andrew Hammond.
Thank you. Instead of going United States government parliamentary procedure, I'm going to go to the good folks in England.
Okay.
Where, Bob, get ready to either laugh or boo.
I like the way we set our jokes up by letting the audience know, hi, there is a joke coming. You might not like it.
We're very polite.
Chase, brother, I love you. We've been doing this podcast for a long time. 3 different places, by the way, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Washington, Michigan, and now Alabama.
That's correct.
That might be the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And this is why I say this.
Wait, hold on. Which part? Because I unleashed a lot of stuff here. Which part did you?
That as a Tennessee
shots fired. Wow.
Yeah.
The fact
you did
that
it really nicely, though, Bob.
Yeah, I try that. Love you, brother. The Tennessee thing with DeBoer.
Yeah.
I've seen who Tennessee has hired since Phil Fulmer was run out the building. You really aren't the expert here when it comes to that, bud.
Hold on, I'm an unbiased person. I'm saying Tennessee has absolutely botched it. Heupel is a better
spit take there.
Heupel is a better high school recruiter. Heupel, he hired Rodney Garner to be his defensive line coach. Now we got James Pierce.
Took them.
No. The past is the past. Hold on. We don't have to do that. We don't have to relitigate the past. That doesn't affect Heupel and Danny White and company.
20 years to get this right. So the fact that you're saying, "Oh yeah, DeBoer," no, who still has an office? Who's still going to have an office in Tuscaloosa?
That also might be weird. Are we sure that's a good thing?
I think it's Mel Gibson.
Absolutely, it is.
That's my answer.
Absolutely.
Well, Nick Saban has an office still, Bob. So Nick Saban's retired, but he's still going to go to the office every day and like watch over like a looming presence.
A Frank Beamer
seems healthy.
A Steve Spurrier. Like there's because I made this point to our team yesterday. It can go one of two ways. It can either be in the sense of, okay, I'm staying out of the way. This is your program. I guide you. If you need it, if you need some type of support, that's there. There's still, it's not like a presidential administration where everybody just leaves and a new administration comes in and they've got to figure out their way for, really half of the first term. I would say that, like I said, it can go one of two ways. It can be like how Florida had it, where, Steve Spurrier, after he retired, he was there. He was a constant presence in the building, but he stayed out of the way. He let guys be them. And so it could be like K-State, where after Bill Snyder retired the first time, still had an office in the building. And he was essentially not running, but he was kind of trying to figure out what's going on and still being the control freak. And he realized, oh, this is not great. They fire Ron Prince, and like either in 2008, Snyder comes back, all this crap. I think Alabama is set up in a way that you won't get that. You won't get the overarching, emperor feel to it. Alabama will be fine. I think the problem is...
Hold on, when you say fine, though, what do you mean by fine? Because the SEC's bulked up. You're behind Texas now. You're definitely behind Georgia. I think Auburn's coming. Ryan Williams might end up at Auburn.
I don't know if they're behind Texas.
I think they're behind Texas.
Because we're...
Texas already beat them. They're better. It's a better staff.
we are looking at Texas it's kind of like with Tennessee, where you look at a 15+ year stretch where they're just up and down trying to find their way, all this craziness. But you have like a 3-year stretch of stability for the first time in a really long time. And it's also just kind of like, we've been there before. Is it different? Is it not?
I think it's different. Texas is back. Texas is a legit title team. They can win the SEC, and it wouldn't surprise me at all next year. Quinn's back. They have a lot brought back. They've recruited extremely well. They have an elite staff. Texas is right there.
And I will say that, and this is even before Saban would have retired. What we look at in the SEC, what we look at the Big Ten, what we look at in college football in 2024, in 8 months or so, it's going to be completely different than what we saw last year. I feel like we can't judge this new age of college football and compare it to last year.
Right.
Because there are too many different variables going on. I do think there are some challenges that Kalen DeBoer will face. I'm not saying that
we need to see a staff. Has he announced anybody? Is Ryan Grubb officially coming as his OC, or is he staying at Washington as the head coach?
The presser is at 2 Eastern.
Okay. Today?
So what's the line from Little Uzi Vert? I just got here. Another spit take. There we go. But no, that's where we're at. We're in the I just got here phase.
Yeah. But if you're Bama fans, you can put pressure. It's like, hey, Travaris Robinson's out the door. Your best recruiter's gone. Who are you hiring? Yeah, he went to Georgia. It's not even like he's just gone. He went to your arch nemesis.
That's a major hit. But it's not like
Cadillac Williams, your new RB coach. He's on the market.
That's another conversation for another.
I do want to ask you about that off air.
Yeah. We'll have to chat about that. But yeah, there are challenges, but one thing that he's done, that Kalen DeBoer has done, has already, because Auburn fans want to say, oh, that's their Brian Harsin. Here's the problem with that.
Nah.
Alabama had 3 Harsons before Saban.
Are we talking about Dennis Franchione? Mike Shula? Are we talking Mike DeBose?
I would say 2 Harsons, two instead of 3. One never actually got to coach a game.
Oh, Price.
You can read the Sports Illustrated article. You'll know why. Here's the thing. Kalen DeBoer is no dummy. He's not going, and I feel like there's this weird thing with, it's because especially at established places like an Ohio State, a Michigan, an Alabama, a Notre Dame, a Penn State, where you have this he's gonna change the culture. What does that exactly look like? As long as Nick Saban is there, you aren't gonna have the boosters trying to run stuff. Because but once again, like I say, he's still gonna be there.
Yeah.
There is a precedent that is set.
It's like the inverse Magic Johnson. I'm not going to be there.
Yeah. And so they've understood that, we can't meddle in this. And there
maybe we'll see. It's easier said than done because every booster's different. And what you saw at Florida State this week, and you saw keeping all of these big time boosters, Bob, it's a totally different world. They're just, even with NIL, it's hard to keep everybody on the same page. And we'll end the Bama DeBoer thing here, Andrew, so we can get into some Bob stuff too and get him in here.
Take your time. I enjoyed this conversation.
Okay. DeBoer, I guess so here's my thing. I think, like I said, DeBoer is an extremely good coach. I'm someone who obviously is well versed in the Josh Heupel era at Tennessee. Certain things about Heupel still kind of, I'm like, hey, you gotta upgrade certain spots in the staff. Like Willie Martinez, it looks like he's gonna be back as corners coach, and he's okay. But Tim Banks plays a lot of vets at that safety spot, and Tim Banks is a good DC. He's gotten better each and every year, but not exactly an ace recruiter on that side of the ball. Brian John Marie, ace recruiter at linebacker, been great. He had Texas ties. Love Brian John Marie. Rodney Garner, just an elite staff hire from Josh Heupel out of the gate. Where when he came in, my biggest worry coming in from UCF and Mizzou and Oklahoma, it's like, is he going to understand recruiting at UT? Like, that is how you are going. Like, I understand you're a great X's and O's coach because you're one of the best offensive minds in the sport, but part of it is just you have to recruit, and you have to have ace recruiters on the staff. And Rodney Garner is an ace recruiter on the defensive line, and he hired Cody Burns as his first wide receivers coach. It's like, okay, he understands that. Cody Burns obviously off to the NFL after 1 year. Kelsey Pope, though, ace recruiter. You get a 5-star and a 4-star receiver this cycle. Kelsey Pope, great recruiter. He understands that. Joey Halsley, good recruiter, played at Oklahoma. He brings in Nico. He had Southern California ties. Guess where most of the quarterbacks, best quarterbacks in the country are coming from right now? They're coming from Southern California. Julian Sayin, quarterback, who's a commit at Alabama, Southern California. Bryce Young, Southern California. They're just, you need to have an ace recruiter on the offensive side who can go into SoCal and pull one of these guys. So like Heupel answered those questions with the staff. So I'm okay. Yeah. I am very curious if DeBoer heat checks and is like, I was just in the national title with my guys. I can get there. And I just wonder how much the Saban and people around DeBoer are going to be like, sorry, dude, you're leaving some of these guys in
But here's
Seattle.
What you can do. Here's the advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking about this last night with somebody. It's like you're at an ad agency.
Mm-hmm.
Because people in Washington are upset, which I get, but it's also William Morris came calling. Like IMG came calling. CAA came calling. Now, Washington's great. Don't get me wrong. Fantastic place. Problem is,
kids love Pullman.
Well, wrong. That's Cougs.
Yeah, but
this
Pullman
is the other one.
But my point stands.
Yeah,
Pullman is a great place.
Never been to Pullman. I want to go to a game in Pullman at one point.
Where's the Washington?
Eastern Washington.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like right there. I think it's really close to Idaho, right, Andrew?
Yeah,
isn't it like really close?
Like less than 10 miles away.
Yeah, I remember thinking like, wow, national championship game between two states, not really known for this, but should be more celebrated for their role in creating the militia movement in the United States.
Well done.
Yeah.
Shout out to Eastern Oregon. Never go.
Yeah. There is a huge, like Washington State. The largest Klan rally in American history was in Washington, in Wycombe County.
Really?
Playing wrong in our home game. Yeah. In the 1920s.
Never would have guessed that.
Yeah, but yeah, I will say this. I know we've got to move on, but
yeah, let's move on.
There's enough of a appeal to a guy who, and the other thing that Alabama fans are or I won't say upset, but are worried about is DeBoer having, I guess, lack of a personality. But I'm like, here's the thing.
That doesn't matter.
He is a ball-ass ball coach. Like, that man just wants to coach ball.
Yeah, you've got the second best offensive mind in the sport. Like, what are we doing?
You know who else wants to coach ball? And just Nick Saban. Not comparing him to
he has personality, though. Nick Saban's going to pop up on game day. Saban's got a personality.
I have a question for you college football knowers. Wait, Chair recognizes me. What is he just going to show up in the office and sit there quietly and drink coffee for a year, or is there a cushy ESPN game day gig that he's?
He could probably do both because it's not like he has to just. Yeah, he can't do
both. I know ESPN really wants him.
He doesn't strike me as a real dazzling on-air personality.
I think he will be good. I actually think Saban will be good.
Look, I think Nick Saban will be a very fine addition to College Game Day. However, I think Nathan Stewart will be an even more tremendous addition to College Game Day after he wins his Emmy.
Who's Nathan Stewart?
You
He's
didn't see
making a
the
joke.
story.
He's making a joke.
Oh.
You saw the story, Bob.
Yes, of course it did.
Yeah.
I thought you were referring to Leanne Corsi, any winner.
Oh, you're talking about that. Oh, I get. Okay, I remembered. Okay, the athletic. Okay, never mind. I'm late.
My favorite part about that is everything that's going on. By the way, we need to talk about another coaching situation that the one that we all thought was going to happen this week hasn't happened, and
Which is what?
it's Harbaugh.
Oh,
Like,
Yeah, he's taking
And
his
that's
jolly
being-
sweet
because he
time.
has the most leverage of any coach. Has anyone ever had as much leverage as Jim Harbaugh across
Well,
two leagues?
He can pretty much call his shot. If
Well,
the
he-
Chargers
Yes.
want to
he can
hand him
call
a
his
check
shot.
again, he can do that. If Michigan wants to
And-
name him
well,
like
he's got a
the
10-year deal.
warlord of Ann Arbor, he can
Yeah,
do
like
that.
he has unbelievable amount of leverage right now.
he's got a 10-year deal on the table.
Yeah.
But the caveat is, I think it's either because at first it was just 1 year. I don't know if it's been extended to 2 years, but essentially has a 1 year, like, you cannot talk to the NFL for a year. Good luck with that.
I'm a little confused about why Harbaugh would want to try to coach up the Chargers or the Saints
Because
or
he's
whoever,
a sentimental SOB.
I also
And I
think he wants a
realize
Super
that-
Bowl. I just think he wants a
Yeah,
Super
I
Bowl.
He
realize
wants a-
coaches
he
get
wants a
these-
Super Bowl so
coaches get
bad.
these because his brother has one. Because
Yeah.
these coaches get into this mindset where they believe that there is no mountain that cannot be surmounted. And
It's
there is
the
no hill
Pete
that
Carroll
cannot be conquered.
philosophy.
Yeah,
it's,
I know.
It's the whole, but that has gone back. I would say even more so maybe in the 80s, because you see Jimmy Johnson doing it with the Cowboys in
Right.
the 80s into the 90s.
I know
And
the
then Pete
NFL
Carroll
realized
did it.
that the coaching success in college ranks doesn't usually translate. Pete Carroll was absolutely the exception, and he was an NFL guy first.
And that's one of those situations where for Pete Carroll, the timing of everything was right, just like it was at USC. Is the timing going to be everything for Jim Harbaugh, whether it's the Chargers, whether it is whatever team?
Look, the worst case scenario, he's Cliff Kingsbury, and he gets that really, tricked out mansion in Arizona for his troubles.
But I don't think Harbaugh wins everywhere. Like whoever signed,
Harbaugh
like
wins
he's gonna
everywhere,
win.
and that's a team, and that is a Charger team that has
They have some
enough.
guys.
They
They
have enough to the fact that they aren't a look. I know everybody wants to call them a divisional title contender. To me, in the NFL, it really doesn't matter. Like divisions,
They've got a quarterback in
But
place. They have
have
a
a defense.
Bosa.
Yeah,
They have a Bosa.
the defense is good enough.
Have a Bosa.
They
have
should
one of them.
be
Mhm.
a perennial playoff
Team. Yeah, they should.
And
But it's
and
also
whether
the
it's-
Chargers. They're the Falcons of the West. Like there's just
It's
something
true.
about them that's just
no one cares about the Chargers.
no people
cares.
care.
No.
The funny thing is, people. I bet you.
And no one
that
will ever care
if-
in Los Angeles about the Chargers.
No.
They can't bring themselves to care about the Rams.
Can we just talk about this real quick? Nobody in the NFL will care about the LA-based teams.
They want the
That's-
media market. They have the media market. That's all they care. If the
because
actual
if you
fans
watch
don't
if
show
you
up,
watch
it
a
doesn't matter.
Chargers or a Rams game, you will. They're basically just home games for the other team.
yeah.
And
But
if
I also do you think that will be the case like even in Vegas 20 years from now?
Oh,
Because I think it just takes
absolutely.
time. Like you have
Vegas is
to.
something
No.
else. Los
Well,
Angeles,
Vegas is something
Los
else.
Angeles
Hmm.
occasionally cares about USC football,
The-
but it's not like there's a tradition of all of the teams that have showed up in LA have been carpetbaggers. So-
yeah. I mean, but you literally have to look at, like, especially with the NFL. And I made this point back in 2017. I was writing a column. I said the problem with the NFL in LA is they've abandoned the city as a whole. But in that, they lose an entire generation of people who organically want to root for a team. So in
And the
that
NFL
time,
does not
no, that's the thing. And the NFL doesn't care. But when you see a Coliseum half full, and when you see SoFi Stadium, with it's essentially Levi's South, and the NFL is going, man, why is this happening? Because they're saying to themselves, how do we not have one of our quote unquote brands, our glamour brands in the league? How come all their fans are showing up? Well, they become fans of other teams. A generation of people.
Okay.
But I
so,
think
Andrew,
it's going
are
to be
you saying
different.
Harbaugh stays in Michigan? Is that your prediction here, that he stays in Michigan?
Oh no, he's absolutely gone.
Ooh,
okay.
I actually think he's staying.
I don't know if he's staying because another conversation outside the pot, he doesn't like his AD. He's wanted to leave, and he basically just expected to go to the Vikings back in the end of the 21 season. He basically just walked.
He interviewed with the Vikings on National Signing Day, which is one of the funniest things, Bob, that you can do as a college football coach.
Yeah, but they already had that thing locked up.
Still, just the optics.
No. But yeah, he walked in basically, and they went through the process as is, and he's just like, so you aren't gonna hire me on the spot? And they're like, no, we're going through the interview process. I'm gonna go back to Ann Arbor. Bye.
Well, in happier notes, Bob.
Yeah, what's up?
Let's say you're not Bob Myers, because Bob Myers is apparently now with the Washington Commanders. Let's say you're Mike Dunleavy right now. Let's say you're Mike Dunleavy.
Okay.
You've gotten tired.
I'll call Ira Newble and have him kick me in the face for old time's sake. What's up?
Ira Newble, first podcast mention of Ira Newble in 7 years?
Probably.
Good call, Bob. Ira
Sure.
Newble. That's like just now ingrained in my brain. The Warriors now reportedly, everyone except Steph is potentially available. Can you explain to me the logic of Mike Dunleavy not putting Steph on the market if everybody else is available? Because I don't know how they build a contender still around Steph.
To build a contender, you cannot trade Steph Curry.
Yeah. Why?
You can't.
Why?
You can't. You couldn't trade Magic Johnson when he was on the Lakers. You could not trade Larry Bird on the Celtics. You could not trade Michael Jordan. You could let him walk. You couldn't trade him.
Yeah, it's kind of like how it
was
in Chicago.
You
can trade everybody else.
You will be run. It does not matter if that is the coldly logical move to do, and that if you actually do want to try to rebuild this team, you cannot trade Steph Curry. Full stop. No,
you can't. No.
Well, what do you do?
It would be what do you do is you want to have Steph Curry around. He will play out his twilight years with some biffed draft picks and recycled veterans and maybe a Pascal Siakam here or there. But this is what happens to dynasties. They fade. The San Antonio Spurs were a playoff team or contender or title winner for 2 decades. They got very lucky. They had 1 year where David Robinson's knee turned to crab meat, and they got Tim Duncan. Then they drafted 2 other Hall of Famers at the end of the first round and in the second round. So that's how they lasted for 20 years. But once Kawhi said, I don't want to be here anymore, they tried to patch it together with DeMar DeRozan. They kept, LaMarcus Aldridge around, and Tim Duncan played out the string, and Parker played out the string, and all those guys slowly faded, and they were still a good playoff team. The 2022 title was a bit of a fluke for the Warriors. They're in that LaMarcus Aldridge, DeMar DeRozan Spurs era.
That was everything went right. That was everything went right in a team that wasn't necessarily ready for the big time.
They did. There was
you know that scene. You know that scene in I don't know. I'm going Star Wars here, but when Luke and Kylo Ren are having that battle, and
Yes.
Luke is basically just like he's just like, okay, we got to do this one more time. But instead of Luke dying, like
He's just
the
stalling so
Warriors
everyone
just-
else can escape. Yeah, they're not.
The Warriors just kept hitting shots when it counted and when it
Yeah. Steph went on an incredible heater. The Boston wasn't ready yet.
Yeah.
Sorry, Andrew.
It's okay.
Sorry, Andrew.
Suffering builds character.
It's true. It does. It also sometimes leaves you a cripple and
but also last year, I mean, to me, probably my favorite game in the Warriors run was that Game 7 against Sacramento.
That was great.
It was vintage. It's like you were back in 2015, 2016.
Yeah, it's those Warriors moments where they just can't be stopped, and it's as if you're staring into the white hot center of the sun, and just everything is.
And the beauty of that is we've been so accustomed to it, so it's starting to crater ever slowly, but now it's starting to crater at a fast.
The Warriors 2 tracks plan. It was an attempt to consciously build what happened with the Spurs, which was, okay, here is the bridge to the next generation of great Warriors teams. And once they biffed the Wiseman pick, it just was not going to happen.
Yeah.
Title in 2022 notwithstanding. So in any case, what is Mike Dunleavy doing? He really can't do much.
Yeah.
He can trade, he can sort of tinker around the fridges. And I think if they, again, Siakam would be a nice addition.
Would he?
If they get a functional Draymond, I think that'll help a whole lot. And they could make the playoffs this year, but it's over. This era of Warriors dominance is over. They literally had a good run and won 3 titles.
But you know what's funny? I think I talked on this program, right? Where they could have solved all this. Like, I just wonder if you get KD and the Warriors and Draymond in a room together, like right now on January 13th, you're like, hey, what if y'all just made this work? What if y'all just stayed together?
with Kevin Durant.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have a meeting of the minds, and Kevin Durant is then going to stop being Kevin Durant.
But do you get what I'm saying? Like, Kevin Durant leaving the Warriors was terrible for Kevin Durant, and it was terrible for the Warriors. Like, it was this idea that,
and the reason he did that is because he's Kevin Durant. He could not have done anything but.
Yeah, because I mean, you go to the Nets, it never works, and now the Suns, you're mad that Bradley Beal's never playing.
If my mother was blue, had wheels, and went up and down Central Park West, she'd be the M10 bus. But she's not.
That's a New York joke that I just... there are so many layers to that one for our New York heads. Yeah.
Let's move. I've already moved on to something else in my head.
Mm-hmm. Deep cut, Bob.
Sure.
So what do you think they do? What is your ultimate? We'll end it here. So, Andrew, your gut, what does it seem like Dunleavy's going to do ahead of the deadline? Do you think Draymond and Clay are both moved? Do you think it's just Kuminga? Do you think Steve Kerr retires at the trade deadline where he's like, all right, this is just done?
He will. I think the Warriors are going to, once again, another Star Wars thing.
Mm-hmm.
When Anakin takes out all the younglings, that's what the trade deadline is going to look like.
You're going to trade the Moses movie.
If they are serious, about this, absolutely. But I'll save my KD Warriors thing for another day. But
that's a whole other kettle of
fish.
Yeah, that's. It's not so much the Warriors; it's more him. Yeah. I mean, it obviously changes are coming. It depends on who goes. But I've been saying this: if you want to extend whatever window, you had to make moves like 2019. You had to make moves in 21.
They did make those moves. It was called getting D'Angelo Russell back for Kevin Durant when he decided he wanted to go. I'm Russell into Wiggins, and it was using the second pick on the next Warriors perennial all-star. And I think it could have been LaMelo Ball.
Yeah. But I'm more so saying the moves that you could have made involve,
and they could have had Franz Wagner instead of Jonathan
I'm
Kuminga.
saying
There was the path.
Yeah, I get it, Bob.
There was a path to pull this off. They just took the wrong guy,
and they didn't trade the right people. They didn't trade the right.
You can't. Draymond is uniquely suited to bring out the best in Steph. I understand why they kept on him. The fact that he has an unquenchable compulsion to like kick someone in the nads, that's what makes him Draymond. You cannot separate the two.
It's what makes him special.
Yeah, there's no duality of man here stuff. It's all part of the same package.
This is what makes him special.
Yeah.
Andrew Hammond, Bobby Silverman, thank you guys as always. Go subscribe to thedailybeast.com today. If you have not already done so, go definitely subscribe as well to al.com and support the good folks over there as they work tirelessly to talk about things like, hey, the next 5-star corner who's already entered the portal, Des Ricks from Alabama, because that's going to happen. And Caleb Downs' watch over the weekend. It's going to be a tough weekend, I think, for the Tide. The realization of Kalen DeBoer's arrival on that front for the defensive side of the ball. But Andrew, Bobby, thank you guys as always, and I'll talk to y'all next week.